Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to Meshery Build and Release call. This call takes place every even Thursday, so second and fourth Thursdays of the month. So that's why we are here today. And usually we talk about things that are left over from the last call, which is the development call, which takes place every Wednesday. So if you haven't already subscribed to the calendar, make sure that you subscribe to the community calendar so that you have updates around every call that takes place in the community. And yeah, so I'll before I get started with the standing agenda item and the rest of the topics, I think I should start with the introductions. So if there is anyone new who would like to introduce themselves, I think I see few new faces today. So uh, at your own comfort, if anyone's willing to come off mute and introduce, feel free to do so.
Hey, I can go first.
Yeah,
So, hey everyone, I'm Karan. I work as a software engineer at HackerRank, and I joined the Layer 5 community recently, like this week itself. And today was my first, you can say, newcomers call that I attended. So, excited to be here.
okay. So your background is Golang or React or what?
Golang Kubernetes, like
Okay,
backend and DevOps stuff.
okay. Um, Thanks, Karan, for the introduction, and I hope that you
Thank
find
you.
some items on your plate. Uh, Samyak, is it your first time as well on the CI call? Uh, if you have any problems with the mics, then you can always introduce yourself in the chat. Uh, Ananya, is it your first time as well?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my first time. So I'm quite like start joined the newcomers channel and saw uh, uh, the building process and the CI CD tools that would be required for the Meshery project, and I would be interested in the Golang part of it.
Okay.
So that's what I'm planning to contribute on.
Okay. Thanks, Ananya. Is it Ananya, right? I'm pronouncing it right. Ananya.
Yeah, it's Ananya, not Ananya.
Okay, it's Ananya.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay, so I think we can now get started with the agenda items. So the first thing is the Meshy test plan. So the link is over here, and this is a recurring thing that I talk about in every call, so that people who are new get they can ask me questions around this doc that we have. So basically, this is the Meshy test plan, and it has two spreadsheets. One of which is this matrix about all the tests that run across all the different components in Meshy. Some of these tests are so as you can see how the columns are set up. So there's a test scenario, there's an action that when this action is performed, then this should be the expected outcome, and then we note down the actual outcome. This used to be a pretty updated spreadsheet, but since this spreadsheet can only be as updated as the contributors over in the CI area. So there are not that many folks that we have, and the rows, as you can see, are it's too long. So few of those tests are manual, few of those tests are around tracking the end-to-end tests and what the outcomes of those end-to-end tests or unit tests are. So if you're playing around Meshery, then this particular spreadsheet can be of help to you. So when you're like testing something, let's say that you're trying to do something from the UI or from the CLI or from any other place, then this can be a good reference point to see what's the expected behavior. And if there is any deviation, then maybe the spreadsheet is not as up to date as it should have been, and you can then raise an issue and get yourself assigned an issue. This is pretty handy. The other part of the spreadsheet is around the automated tests and builds. And since we have a lot of workflows spread across all the repositories under the Meshery org. So we have adapters, we have adapter library, we have Meshkit, and of course Meshery. So each of those components have their own workflows. Few of those workflows are end-to-end tests, few of those are unit tests, few of those are just builds, and all of those are documented over here. So whenever you add any new workflow, a GitHub workflow, you have to, as part of the convention, you have to come and update this spreadsheet over here so that this spreadsheet is in sync with the actual state of the CI across the Meshery org. So that's about the spreadsheet. If you have any, if you have any questions regarding any of these two spreadsheets, I'll pause for 10 seconds to 15 seconds, and I think then we can get rolling with the actual agenda items that we have today. Okay, so the first topic is from Pranav. Pranav, would you like to go first?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. So first topic is about the status of all the adapters which Meshery uses for different functionality for different service meshes. So Meshery as a tool can do a lot of things with different cloud native tools. As Meshery can connect to different adapters for provisioning of a service mesh and different things like installing a sample application, mesh, um, service mesh add-ons and other stuff. So for each service mesh, there is an adapter, and each adapter has its own repository. So Meshery support 10 service meshes as of today, and so there are 10 different repositories for different adapters. So like there are E2E tests which actually checks the functionality of different adapters, whether they are able to run properly, whether they are able to provision a service mesh, then whether they are able to like install a sample application and things like that. So like there is an E2E test in all the adapters, and it does all these things. And for quite some time, all of the E2E tests were failing. And that there were several reasons behind it, because recently we migrated from OAM to mesh models, and it required a lot of different changes in different areas. So like I made a couple of PRs in different adapters. So first of all, now our each two adapter is working perfectly fine. All the tests are passing. And like I've already, like the explanation is simple, like the sometimes the model name was missing, or sometimes the URL of the PRD is missing and things like that. So this issue is working fine as of now. And then we have Linkerd, which I fixed in the morning. Like now Linkerd as well, like all the tests are passing for it. And there were several issues for Linkerd failing, because like there were several missing components for the latest service mesh, as well as the URL was not correct for fetching the CRD, and that changes I made in the morning. So Linkerd is also working fine now, and we are all and like the quickest way to determine which are passing and which are failing is this compatibility matrix. And like the OSM as well as console is also working fine. There was one issue with console, that is like it was failing for one of the release of latest release of console service mesh, and I fixed that just now. Now if we check, yeah, there like I think it's not like compatible with this specific version, because like whenever we try to deploy it for this version, it never applies. It's not able to like install the adapter, sometimes able to provision the service mesh. So I tried to fix this, but like I think again, like we are getting the same error which we were getting earlier. So I'll have to look into this. And like other than that, I've also made the update for Nginx adapter. And like now the remaining items are the traffic mesh as well as Puma are the two more adapters which are left out, which requires update. So this is the
Have you
first item.
narrowed down the issues with both of those adapters?
Not right now. Like I have to do it.
Okay. Can you bring up any of the failing tests of those adapters? Because I think we have a bunch of people who might be looking for Golang issues. So if the issue over here is pretty straightforward, then maybe some of them can get assigned. If you look at the pattern apply.
Yeah.
Okay, is the mesh model empty? What's the design? Can you go to the design that we use over here in the .github/?
Yep.
installed in the install directory.
Yep.
Okay, I think one thing that you can try to do here is to add model, because we mandated model. So I think uh, I don't remember. I don't know if that will really solve the issue, but I mean we need to be stricter anyways. So ideally, I think we shouldn't be having like we shouldn't be hand coding these particular designs over here. So this is like a hand coded thing. Ideally, we can design it on the designer or maybe mesh map designer. And then after we successfully deploy it there, then we can just take the text form of that thing and put it over here so that we can be, so we have one thing which is testing, like if you're sure that these tests are passing, we can also be sure that things would be going well on mesh map and vice versa. So yeah, first you can try adding model over here, and the other adapter. What was the issue with that?
Yep. Then we have
So
that. Yep.
can you go back to that particular design file for once, just to
Mhm.
give other people a little context? So this is like a unit of deployment. So it might look like a little bit like a Docker compose file. So you can see like services over here. Actually, the correct term would be components, because we used to use services. So, but now we use the term services and components exchangeably, and this thing would change most probably in future. And then on line number 3, that's the key. So that's one unit of your deployment. And here we are just specifying that I want to deploy a Kuma mesh in the namespace Kuma, and the logic that handles this particular component is inside of the adapter. So once you give this design to Meshery server would make a gRPC call to Meshery adapter, in this case the STU adapter, and then the STU adapter would be responsible for deploying this particular component. Uh, so yeah, that's a little, and what we do in the end-to-end test that Pranav was just showing is we use these design files to test the basic functionality of an adapter. So when you create a pull request, or let's say we create a release or something is merged, we want to test the the lowest common denominator of an adapter, which is, can it deploy a service mesh? Can it deploy a sample app? And when I deploy a service mesh, do the pods come up and all that? So can it like inject sidecar? So if it's in your control plane, we're trying to deploy. So after deploying, let's say that let's say that I deploy this and then I deploy a book info app. Do I see those sidecar containers being injected into those pods that come up and all that? So basically, we use this particular design file, then we use these tests to deploy stuff, and then we just make assertions. We just use kubectl get pods, and then or get services, or get any particular resource which we expect out of that adapter that it would deploy, and then we make assertions whether those things actually came up or not. So yeah, that's what these tests do, and these had been failing for a while because we changed the specification of our internal registry. So these components that use, like in Kubernetes, you have like custom resource definitions, and then you have custom resources. So you can imagine if a CRD goes from version 1 to version 2, and few things might break, right? So in this case as well, that the schema, or you can say the design file that we had previously followed a different convention, and then it was migrated to a different one, but the tests had the design file of previous version, so the tests were failing. And here Pranav and other folks have joined in the collective effort to make sure that the design file is correct, the logic is correct, the adapter is handling everything correctly, in compliance with the new mesh model, what he calls. So previously we had adopted the open application model, which is pretty common, like you might have heard about it. But since it did not really fit into the use case of Meshery, we then kind of, because we were modifying it to a point that were basically creating another spec. So that's what he means when he says mesh models. So that was a context in 5 minutes. You can continue, Pranav.
Yep. And so like after we like now the missing the left of our adapters are the Kuma adapter, traffic mesh adapter, and I think yeah, that's the only one. Like one, like I'll have to look into it, but one thing I wanted to like highlight is in this adapter, like I just made a change, and yeah. So like there is one kind of, I've not seen this error before, but it calls out like the model category is not cannot be marshaled from string to this. So
Uh-huh.
it's
So I think the first thing to check would be that is the mesh kit and Meshery adapter version in this adapter the latest one, or are those the previous ones? Because I'm not really sure this particular category struct. I think this is in mesh kit, and this was modified. This used to be like cannot and marshal string into ghost. So it used to be a string, then it was changed into you like previously category was just like one string, and now category itself is a struct. So we and that was in mesh kit. So just make sure that you what's the mesh kit version if you go in the Go mode?
yeah, like I've updated everything to latest, so it's 0.6.45.
About it. Yeah. So it's 4.5 and adapter libraries 8. And both of these, the current version for both of these are 8 and 4.5, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Actually,
okay,
one
okay.
thing I updated is that like we were using this organization management, but it should be cloud native network. So I just
Actually, yeah, here's the issue. I think in the like here the category is a string that you're providing, right?
yeah.
With this adapter.mesh model config struct, is it the latest struct? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I'll look into it. Can you scroll down a little?
Mhm.
Can you go on? Okay, okay. Uh, okay, okay. I'll look into that. But I think this is more. I have like can you scroll up? Yeah, on line 28 in the other adapters as well. We have category here as string, or are we using some other struct and then that struct has a name string?
No, it's exactly same. Like I was just following the same stuff, same procedure that we have elsewhere as well. So like we can look into later on as well, but like see, it's the exact
Okay.
same thing.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think this is a different struct. So yeah, I'll take a look and then you can write my name in front of this thing, or maybe comment and ask me ask for a review on this particular PR so that I can check it out
Mhm.
on my system.
So the next item,
Sorry, I had a question, but if we're kind of like short on time, I can ask it later. It's about the way that Kuma is installed. So just very fast, I guess I can ask it. So my question is the following: does all the adapters install the respective service mesh in this fashion?
Yeah.
Through
Yeah.
okay. Doesn't so the repo for the adapter, isn't it possible we use the adapter itself to install the mesh as part of the lifecycle management that we support?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Or that's what we do?
Yeah, you use adapter to deploy service mesh. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just take a look at, because I thought that through Meshery CTL there would some commands to just do something
Yeah.
similar to in the UI. But okay,
Yeah.
I'll read a bit
All
more.
the
Thank you.
all the
Mhm.
clients like CLI or UI, any client, it would of course it will talk to Meshery server, and then Meshery server would delegate that request to the adapter. The intelligence around whether this thing should be handled by the adapter, by the Meshery
Mhm.
server, by an external system or anything, in that intelligence is inside of the pattern engine, what we call our design engine, and that is inside of Meshery server. So your question is who's responsible for deploying this design? I mean, I can say that adapter is, because I know that adapter told when adapter started it registered its capabilities to Meshery server, and it told Meshery server that whenever you get a request, you can delegate that to me. But it's completely up to Meshery server. It wants, you can literally have an adapter running, and then you can disable that thing, or you can like add certain policies maybe in future that allows Meshery server to make some other decision. So to answer your question short, yes, right now the default is that when you have an adapter connected and this capability is registered by an adapter, then the adapter would be responsible for deploying that service mesh. So when you even do mesh CTL pattern apply or design apply, it would be the adapter actually which would be deploying.
Okay. I see. So it's still delegated to the adapter itself. Okay, thank you.
so next update is about the support for edge releases with remote provider. So you can go through this
Before
quickly. Yeah.
Pranav, before we move forward, of anything that we said for the last like 15 minutes, if anyone has any questions, I'll again pause for 10 seconds so that we're not running over people. If your question is too convoluted, then of course you can take it to Slack. But again, you can at least raise them right now so that we can reconfigure our pace of moving forward in the meeting. Because if the folks are not in sync with what's going on, then we would want that. So if anyone has any questions, I'll pause for 10 seconds. Okay, Pranav, move on.
Yeah. So like one thing to note is that Meshery as a tool can talk to different remote providers for enhancing its capabilities. So you can use Meshery with a remote provider or as a non-provider. That means just local to your instance. That is, so remote. The use case of remote provider is to like give different capabilities as well as so that your work, whatever you do, get persisted in a database so that whenever you log into a different message server, you get the exact same experience. So, like in the remote provider, there is a check which actually checks for the minimum capable compatibility version of Meshery server which basically allow us to like um control which Meshery server can connect to remote provider, because if it's an old Meshery server and the new version of remote provider cannot talk to it because of the change in different structs or change in the APIs. So that's all about minimum compatibility. And it was only earlier it was only the stable release that was like capable of checking the minimum compatibility. And the reason for that was because our edge releases are not versioned. That is, we hard code the edge latest in the like when we build Meshery server image, then we hard code that it should be we pass this variable and we also hard code it to edge latest. And this was the reason that it was any edge release was not able to connect to remote provider. So I've updated that to the latest version which I get from this git command. So basically it gives us the latest tag of that particular PR. Not the PR, but when we merge a PR, then we make an edge release, and that in that edge release we'll be checking for the latest tag whichever is available for that particular instance of Meshery repo, and then we seed that into this variable, and we also like add the same versioning to a new Docker tag, so that the remote provider can allow edge releases as well for like for registration purpose and other things. So this is the work for that. I don't think there would be any questions. Any questions on this?
Looks good to me.
Okay, moving on. And this is one more thing which I want to talk about is like we have another organization that service mesh pattern which has a repo service mesh patterns, which basically includes a different set of designs that we use for our E2E tests, as well as earlier it used to work as a catalog, but now we have our own catalog on meshery.io which you can check. So basically the work of this repo was to have a collection of different designs which can be used not only for E2E but also for testing by users, as well as so that when they start using Meshery, they have some content to work with. And the issue was that all these designs were OAM, like core application compatible and not the mesh model compatible, because it required some changes. So I just made that. We discussed this in the last call as well. Like the only thing is that I cannot test each Spire design, but like other designs are working fine. So
The reason for not being able to test is this virus.
yeah, one is that we cannot do it from UI itself because there is some bug in CRD component registration, which I figured out, but I think this is not the right time to discuss. And the second thing is that like even when I use this thing or Meshery CTL, it doesn't apply because like I mentioned in my one of the Meshery Istio adapter PR, that is like we use a CRD, we use a QLang CRD filter, and in that we use that this spec should be available for all the component that we have. And like for this specific design, their spec is not available for like one of the components, and that is the reason that we cannot deploy this design. So
Spec is not available for. Can you show me the design?
yeah, like the schema is not available for one of the components. So we open API v3 schema.
What's the exact error that you get when you deploy it?
Um, I don't have a screenshot right now, but it says that the like I don't have the error, so I don't know. But it's like this. Okay, 1 second. I can show. So this is the error that I get. Like it says that this spec is missing in a design, so it cannot apply it in the Kubernetes. This was it. And it is the same for this PR that I also created.
So this error takes place at the time of registration, right? Or the
No,
component generation?
also while applying, I got the same error, which like just says that missing field spec and it just errors out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into this. Just make sure you post that particular. That's part of that PR.
Mhm.
Just
Okay.
curious, is there a way we can add a CI job to kind of like try to automate something like that would output that error you're having, Pranav, or like that's what you shared was in the with Meshery UI, right?
Yeah, actually there are two issues. One is that we cannot deploy from UI because CRDs, like there's an error in this like schema, JSON schema, and because of that we cannot like render it in our RGSF forms. The second issue is that while applying, it doesn't apply because of some missing spec. So
But would it be
that's it.
possible to make like, let's say, a YAML file that automates a CI run that makes Meshery TTL try to work with these YAML files, and then we can see the errors. So whenever we try to merge to service mesh patterns repo, we kind of like have something that tells us if it works with some latest release or something. So that'd be easier for everyone to collaborate around with CI run logs and everything.
Currently, that's the purpose of the end-to-end tests that we have across the adapters, and that they try to deploy. So inside of install directory, inside of install, you'll see deploy.yaml in all of the adapters, and that is the design that we. That's a design that we try to deploy to check whether we don't the design or the YAML file that Pranav is showing. That's not part of the test right now because apparently we don't support it right now.
I agree, but if what you're saying is true, then we merge a change to this specific repo, and then we don't know it's broken until someone tests it manually, or until another, let's say one of the adapters tries to, like, there's another run in some other repo. So then there's an investigation, like, why is it broken, right?
Usually we have like two places. One is Meshery catalog and the other is service mesh patterns. I think ideally
this is there, like I was saying.
But could we add a check in the service mesh patterns repo so that we know and let's say a merge with changes on these patterns, like if there's something wrong with them before someone has to manually try them out, or some other repo tries to use them.
Yeah,
I mean, just a suggestion for an enhancement that would make these chores a lot easier.
Yeah,
I can open an issue for that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we can discuss about this later on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that's the update from my side. So,
okay,
like, can we merge that PR or should we wait for that
Which
to
one?
fix this service mesh patterns fix?
The one that you were just showing, that one.
Yeah, yeah. This one.
Okay. I mean, I haven't reviewed it except for, and other than Istiospire, everything else is fine.
Yeah. I've tested everything.
Okay, so okay. Just do we have a follow-up issue for this thing? Istiospire.
No, like I'll create one.
Okay,
Or if
so just
Mario is
yeah,
already created.
I think yeah, Mario is creating for a workflow in Service Mesh Patterns repo, and not exactly to resolve that particular error. So you can create another issue for in Meshery. I think ideal place would be Meshery and not adapter. That
Mhm.
this particular design is not. I mean, what's the issue with this design? And if there is one, then give me a basically give me a corresponding different design that can achieve the same end goal as this one, functionally the same design. So you can create an issue there and then link that issue over in this comment over here, and then we can close, like, merge this thing and then head over to that particular issue.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item is from me, but because we already are like 30 minutes past, so I'll give other folks time and then I'll circle back to my item. So after me is Abdullah. Abdullah, would you like to go?
So the Meshery REST API reference is generated using this Swagger doc that we have here. And how this Swagger doc is built is that we have a make command, makes Swagger docs build. And so when we run this command, it goes through all the Swagger comments that we have and makes updates to this doc. But since a lot of contributors have made, since many contributors have made changes to the Swagger docs, but they've not run this command as such, which has led to this problem where this file that we have is quite out of date, and running the Swagger docs build make command leads to a lot of changes. And so hence we would like to integrate this make command into any of the build and release workflows. And one question I had would be which workflows would we want to integrate this make command into, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I think first of all, there are like two make recipes. One's for make Swagger docs and one for make Swagger docs build, right?
Make Swagger docs is fine. There aren't many changes in the file when you run make Swagger docs, but make Swagger docs build is the make command that gives the issue. It's make Swagger
Okay,
actually.
yeah. So which one is used in the UI?
In the UI, when you run make Swagger docs build, the file that is generated, this is being used in the UI in docs.meshery.io.
So UI has the outdated reference right now.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Um, I mean, this can be part of I guess when we merge the PR, and if the changes had been made to Go files, that can be a trigger for this thing, because although not all Go files have the Swagger comments on them, so currently I don't have a strong opinion on this one. Is there an issue for this?
I don't think there is an issue for this currently, but I'll go ahead and make one.
Yeah, just go ahead, create an issue and assign it to yours, or just tag me, I'll assign it to you, and then we can discuss the triggers for that thing or when to build that thing. Also tag some other contributors who have worked on this particular area, like if someone else, like UI contributors, or just to clarify. So what's the purpose of the other Swagger YAML? Because there are two Swagger YAMLs, one of which is the outdated one, is the one that you saying that the make Swagger docs build generate. What about the other one?
The other one is for, I think this Swagger doc references that other Swagger doc for some components, maybe. I think that's how it works. I'm not sure what's the exact use for it now. Swagger docs.
Instead of server helpers, that's where is that referenced? Or do we just have two duplicates?
No, it's not a duplicate. It has its own server. I'm sure that this is the one that's being used in the UI, though, not this.
And you're not sure where this one is used.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Okay, so okay, we can discuss this in the comment of the issues, and yes, we can we can run we can run a job that generates this thing and then pushes it onto the master. Maybe every time a merge is made, any merge that changed any Go files, maybe that can be a good trigger. Um, yeah, just create an issue. I think it should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so next is from Subedi. Do we have Subedi? Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
My screen. Okay, so the first item for me is compatibility matrix. In the compatibility matrix, okay, I'll talk about this thing, why there are red marks in this particular table. So how this particular metric is shown is that all the test results from a particular Kubernetes version and the stable release of that particular Kubernetes version is shown here. Like the edge release of this particular Kubernetes version status is not shown. Only the stable releases that are made for that particular version, only those are shown. So thus the tests were failing for this version 25.3 in one of the stable releases. Thus this cross X marks is shown in this particular column, and similarly for others also it's the same thing. Like it was one of the tests for a stable release was failing for this particular Kubernetes version. That's why we are seeing an X marks. The other the below table, so how this is happening is that we are running around 3 to 4 like end-to-end test for a like for a particular mesh service mesh. We are running 3 to 4 Kubernetes version. So one of them, if it returns, like if one of them returns false, then it randomly assigns a false parameter, like a false status to this particular table. So yeah, that's the reason, like running of 2-3 threads, and if one of them fails, and if one of it fails on a particular stable release, then we see a failing remarks. So yeah, that's the reason.
So the table above that we have, I think it should reflect the status of the latest stable one and not one of the things. So each of these coordinates for a specific Kubernetes version and a specific service mesh should reflect that whether the latest version of that particular stable adapter can successfully deploy or is passing all the tests for that particular Kubernetes version. But that's not the case. That's not the logic right now, right?
So that no, that is the logic right now. Because after like certain this 25.3, the which one was failing, we didn't run for any of the stable releases. As we can see, we
Okay.
only ran for like only these three. Those are showing perfectly fine. Those are showing green tick, but the one that was showing red, it was referenced here. So this one was showing red, right? So after this, it was not run. So that's why it stayed, like it remained in the failed state in the
The,
comparative matrix.
so the
So
latest is here. So the latest is failing, right? Although we after Pranav's PR was merged, did we have, like, I think Pranav had fixed that Istio issue. So Pranav, after that, did we have a release for Istio adapter?
Yeah, we have made any reviews.
So it should reflect here, right?
Yeah, that is what my confusion was, because it should come correct here, because if even if we see Meshery Istio repo, all the tests have passed. There was none test that went failed. So why it's showing red? If you can go there.
What is the version of the current Istio?
If you can go to releases, no?
6.12, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
you can check in the actions. You can check. Okay.
Yeah, so 6.12, we ran only two of those, for only two Kubernetes version. So that's why we are seeing, like, we'll see green for these in the compatible matrix, like 22.2 plus 25.2, we'll see a green tick. But for others which we didn't run and which were remain in the fail state will still remain failed because there are no current updated stable release green checks.
And why did the test not run for the rest of the Kubernetes versions?
Yeah, that I am not sure.
Can you go to actions and go to the Istio test? Yeah. And here, if you can scroll to the merge, the release one, when it was triggered. When was the release made, Pranav?
I think it was last week.
Last week.
Like if you go to 0.6.12.
Okay. In the releases.
Yeah, here only. Like if you
It's not here.
yeah, if you go to actions and then go to each E2E test adapter, yeah, this one. Then if you scroll a little bit down, like on the little up, on the right you can see 0.6. In the blue you can see 0.6.12. Yeah,
Oh,
this one. I think there's a that GitHub API rate limiting as well that sometimes causes an issue. So that's
And
the reason.
we don't have retries over
Hmm.
here. Okay, can you Pranav, can you trigger this thing again? If you
Yeah.
maybe it will push it. Anyways, you can move on to your next item.
okay. For the next item is the SMP dashboard updates. So SMP, okay. So what was happening previously was that the SMP dashboard was not getting updated. The performance profile was last run in 13 September, and then it was not getting updated. The reason for that is that like some changes were created in the SMP action, such that the performance profile, each time a scheduled benchmark test ran, a new performance profile was created. So that's why the SMP dashboard was not updating, and for each performance profile, a single test results were creating. That's why we were facing that problem. So to fix that, wait, that was in this Meshery ctl.sh. We were giving us some random characters or variable in this profile name, thus creating a new performance profile. So to fix that, I made the changes in this file to make performance profile same name, like one single name. So after that change is done, we do see like new performance profile getting formed and showing the results. Now the what I'm facing a problem is that I cannot seem to have like linked these two. Like we already had a 4-tier test with Linkerd in the past. Now I want to wait to how to link this new performance profile with the old performance profile.
Okay.
So it's a bit of challenge in the UI part also, in the backend part also. So what I proposed was that can I delete the old performance profiles result, but I don't think that's possible.
We have a lot of those, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we have a lot. Yeah, 604 pages for this itself. And for the new one itself, at 13 pages has already creating almost 130 results have already been created for the new ones also.
Where do we hold this data? Is it like some JSON
Uh,
database?
Yeah, it's in the database. For the website, it's dynamically called from the API.
Yep. I guess it's a database change to merge those two into a single sorry, to a single well, I'm not sure if it's a row or like a
How are we
or
correlating
just an entity
various-
as I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking Aditya, how are we correlating them before when we had random names being generated?
Random names, which if they were that was like we're not correlating at all. Like that was the reason there were no updates were like presented in this dashboard. When the random names were random performance profiles were created, there was no update in this dashboard. Only the results, like profiles were created. That's it.
Okay, so
What did we do so that the new results appear over here?
So
What is
what
the
did we do?
difference?
We did was that we removed that random creating performance profiles and then made the performance profile name as something kind of similar.
Static.
Yeah, static. We added
Mhm.
SM.
But then again, how does that persist over to the site? Like, is there something else made so that that could happen?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, like, okay, so I understand that the profile of the performance profile name is now it's static.
Okay.
But even when it was like a random value or something dynamic in there,
Oh, okay.
like I don't see it anywhere in the site, at least not when you share it right now. So what other change was made so that now this new static performance profile shows in there, like
Okay. So previously, while fetching the API rule was set that only those profiles should be visible in the dashboard, which have a particular pattern, that is service mesh dash load. Wait, I'll just check it.
so there was
Service,
some filtering
yeah,
before.
filtering. So I just updated that filtering to include performance profile that have SMP plus the previous naming constructs that we had. But that's what now it's showing. So when the dynamic was created, those dynamic could not be matched to those API calls. That's why they were not visible in the dashboard.
okay, so is there an issue open for this right now?
Issue. No. There's no issue for the like joining of these to previous profiles and new profile. There's no issue for this.
Okay, I think yeah, this can happen both on the UI side um, or maybe on the database side. Depends. You can create an issue, and there we can like currently we don't have
Discuss.
everyone on the call, so yeah, there we can discuss. So if you haven't, do you already if you already have an do you already have a PR for this thing and that is merged and this thing
Yeah.
that you
This
are
is merged. Like now we'll get
yeah
new performance profile. Yeah. This is merged. This one is the
okay
only merging part is left.
okay so the way you described the issue on the call right now, just describe it onto the issue and then just paste that link in on Slack so that we can have a discussion over there.
Okay. Yeah. And one I have this issue is in crypto design. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I had one more for the SMP action. So some of the tests are like most the Istio tests are failing for schedule benchmark, and I think the reason for that is this particular URL. So for the in the Istio deploy code, just a minute. The gateway URL, I guess the ingress port is not getting populated here. That's why we are getting an invalid URL for performance profile to run, a colon here, colon slash, there should be a port number here, which is not getting populated for this using this Istio deploy script. That's why the performance profile cannot run. Error, please enter a valid dash URL.
Okay, can you go back to that script?
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Also, I don't think we should debug it right now because we only have 10 minutes. So can
Okay.
you also create an issue out of this?
Yeah, I'll create an issue.
Also point this line number out where clearly we are getting an empty variable where we should have the actual port value. Maybe someone can take it up and debug it. So on the CI channel, you can paste the link for both these issues.
Okay.
Thanks, Aditya.
All right.
Okay, so moving on to the next item, which is from British. British, would you like to talk about?
Yes, sure. So, okay, let me, okay, share my screen. Okay, so here we go. So basically, it's to improve the test coverage for Meshery CTL and actually I started working on it, and this is actually my first year for that. Now the test for the health check file are actually currently ready. So I actually opened the PR on Monday, and yeah, there was some test failing, but I managed to fix it. And yeah, currently this is like the test that one was the test coverage for the previously, and now that's the current test coverage for that file. There are also some. Currently, I'm still working on the test coverage for the provider test, and for also the platform. Yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, so some of these tests are failing, or all of these tests are
No,
passing?
actually, no, actually, they are passing. For the provider and the platform, currently they are not yet for peer review. So I didn't open the pull request yet for that. But that's one issue.
Okay. I think I haven't reviewed this PR as of now. Pranav, have you looked at this PR?
No, not right now. I'll look into it.
Okay. Trish, you can in the reviewers, you can ask me for a review. You can tag me there, so
Okay,
I can also look into that. And
okay,
you
sure.
have other PRs as well, right? So I'll take a look on all of them. So you have more PRs in Meshery, and all of those are around unit tests, adding more unit tests.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I will tag you instead of.
Anything else?
No, it's okay.
Thank you. So the next update is from before I get to Mario, Avi, and Gaurav. Uh, I would go to Uzair, Avi, and Harkirat, which are I think they are not on the call right now. So I think I can move back to uh, Mario. So Mario, would you like to talk about the updates on Cypress testing?
Yeah, not sure if there were recent updates there. Let me take a look. While I look for them, does anyone has anything else?
I can circle back to, although we have only 5 minutes, so I can circle back to this particular item. I can talk about it. Maybe if other folks want to hop on this particular issue, they can before I get to it. So okay, I'll circle back to this thing. So this issue is around ability to pass along additional Helm chart values. So let me talk about this for a while. So as I talked about it, that we have all the adapters which try to deploy the service mesh, and that's the least common denominator of their functionality. So if I go to any of the, let's say, install directories, these are the design files that they try to deploy. And if I click on them, this is the design that you see. And if you look at the configurability parameters that we have over here, then you would see that you can specify inside of other than the metadata, which is the type of the stuff and the model it belongs to and the namespace you want to deploy in. Inside of settings, you have just one parameter right now, which is the profile. So when you deploy, let's say you use Istio-CTL or use any particular CLI or even Istio operator to deploy Istio, you can specify which profile you want to deploy Istio in. So the demo is where you have both egress and ingress gateway. In the default one is you only get the ingress gateway, and the minimal is you just get the control plane. So you can configure that over here, and depending upon what profile you choose, different things would be deployed. Now, on contrary, this particular Istio mesh component that you see on the designer, this is from the Istio operator. And when you click on this one, you can see that there are more fields over here. So you have options to configure things like where you want your access logs to go in, and you can configure ingress class and then CA certificates and all those things. You can basically, there are a lot of knobs and dials for the components exposed via the operator from the CRD where which we generated this particular component, as compared to what we have over here where we like just have or like we have nothing. I mean, we just have the profile here. So the pro is that it gives you a handy way to just get going. You don't need to have fill like 10 things. It's opinionated, so it's like we pick things for you, but the downside is that there's not much configurability. So so the ask in this PR, which maybe I will take up and someone else can, which is that the schemas that we have, which basically describe the capability of a service mesh adapter. So inside of templates, inside of mesh model components, if I go into any of these versions, let's say 114, and if I go to Istio mesh, I mean, it's pretty hard to read over here, but the schema over here just has the profile. What we can do is when we auto generate the schemas, here what we are essentially doing is that we are claiming that for the version 1.14.0 we would deploy a service mesh. We would deploy Istio for this version, and when we would be deploying Istio, we would refer back to Istio's Helm chart. So if I look at Istio's Helm chart, let's say, so inside of Istio Helm chart, this is the URL that they provide. So if I look at the index YAML, so in here you can see that they have if I'll just download one of these helm charts to show what I'm talking about. So if I look into this particular, okay, I think I'll have to share my whole screen for this. So yeah, if I look at this base, you can see that it has values.yaml. And this values.yaml has things like image pull secrets versus Istio namespace, Istioed. Basically, these are the parameters that are configured, that are configurable, and by Helm. So because we have Helm as a deploying mechanism, what we can do is when we generate the schema for any particular version, then we can go to refer to the Helm chart for that particular version, because we know that we're going to deploy the Helm chart. We can use this particular values.yaml to generate the schema. So inside of the schema, we will have fields like global and image pull secrets. So everything that is configurable via the values.yaml of the Helm chart would be part of the schema of the component. Then that schema would be registered to Istio. And over here in the browser where I was showing you, you would click on this particular thing, and instead of these fields, for the Istio mesh component registered by Meshery server, you would get these fields. So you would have a global object, and then you'll click on that, and then you'll have image pull secrets, which would be an array. So these things can be mapped directly one-to-one to this particular component, and we don't have to, like, this is also kind of a straightforward thing. We don't have to make any extra translations in the middle, or when someone tries to deploy something, because we can be certain that the knobs and dials that they are configuring from here correspond directly to the values.yaml of the Helm chart for that version. So because we generated and we pushed it, so we can deploy it, and basically it will allow users to, instead of deploying Istio from the Helm chart using CLI and all, you can just drag and drop the component, and you get the similar thing. Because we have an adapter in between, we can even extend this functionality and add more fields on top of this. So, the changes can be additive. The point of the whole thing is that currently we only can use Istio operator to have a more configurable approach for the service mesh. And recently Intel was using Meshery to do some load testing, and there they were asking that, hey, how can we're trying to deploy it, and how can we do some extra configuration, and like there wasn't much configuration that you could do, so they had to use some other ways around it. So I think this would really help to because Meshery is an extensible platform. So by design, most of the things are extensible. So that's why it allows that room for adding more stuff. So I think this issue is not currently assigned to anyone. I'll take this one. If I don't get to it timely, then someone else can take it over from me who has understood this issue enough. And this is, of course, a Golang change. So if someone wants to jump in, if you, I mean, it would require a bit of context. To be honest, you would need to be familiar with adapter source code. So and maybe some part of Meshy source code, but I think adapters, yeah, some part of Meshy source code, there is a process on RPC that you would need to know. I mean, yeah, you would need to know some part of the code. So if you are like already, some of you who are on the call right now are already going around exploring the source code, and you're interested in this issue, then you can comment here that you want this to be assigned to you, and I'll always be happy to help. You can ping me on Slack and ping me publicly, I would say, on Slack, so that we can have this discussion publicly, so that other folks can also benefit. And yeah, maybe we can, maybe some of you can help to add this enhancement, which probably, yeah, and it would be a pretty substantial change, to be honest. And then we would need the same functionality in other adapters. So if someone steps in and adds this, maybe other folks can replicate that thing in other adapters as well. Or if no one steps in, then of course I'll try to work on it. So I think we are like 3 minutes after. So Mario, sorry, I think I'll have to wrap up now because we're already on time. Um, Ananya in chat has
Sure.
asked. So Ananya, you can comment here on this particular issue. The link is, I think, over in the doc. So you can go head over to this link and comment here that you want this to be assigned to you. Maybe Lee himself would assign. So if he doesn't get to it, then I'll assign. And as you get those issues assigned, we like folks to not, kind of squat on the issues. So if you can get it rolling within a week and all, then it's good. Otherwise, like even if you have a draft PR, it's always good to have a draft PR rather than saying, okay, I'll make a change, so that if someone else can also pick it up. So if you have any other doubts, you can ping me on Slack, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you, Ananya, for stepping up. If anyone else have any doubts, then I'll wait for 10 seconds and then I'll end the call. So okay, so this brings us to the end of the call. Thanks everyone for joining. And this call takes place, as I had already said, every other week. So it's a bi-weekly call. And for all of you who are here today, make sure you join the development call that happens every Wednesday. Then for the newcomers, there's always the newcomers call, which took place today, and it takes place every Thursday. Then there's the websites call on Monday. So yeah, we have a lot of calls. If you miss one, you can always hop onto another. And if you're new, introduce yourself on Slack, get familiar with the source code, get familiar with the community, and uh, I hope that we can start contributing as soon as possible. And yeah, so that was it. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll meet next Thursday. So bye everyone.